We live in a world where it feels like everything is constantly changing. So, what if I told you there's a philosophy that has spent thousands of years searching for the one thing that never ever changes? Today, we're going to dive deep into Vedanta's incredible quest for ultimate reality.
I mean, really think about it. Your thoughts from a moment ago are gone. Your relationships evolve. Your body is different than it was 7 years ago. It's all in flux. This isn't just some passing thought. It's a fundamental human question that has kept thinkers up at night for centuries.
Well, it turns out that for thousands of years, a major philosophical tradition in India has put this exact question at its very core. So, welcome to the world of Vedanta, a serious deep dive into the very nature of reality itself. Let's get into it.
So, what is Vedanta? The name literally means the end of the Vedas, which are the most ancient scriptures of Hinduism. But its focus isn't on religious duties or rituals. Oh no, it's all about jnana, which is this direct, transformative knowledge of what is ultimately real.
The whole tradition was first laid out in a text called the Brahma Sutras, which is basically a collection of super dense, cryptic sayings. They're so short, they're almost impossible to understand on their own. And this is where it gets really interesting, because three absolute geniuses, Shankara, Ramanuja, and Madhva, all read these same exact text and came up with three radically different answers to our big question. So let's start with the first, and maybe the most famous answer. It comes from the philosopher Shankara. His school of thought is called Advaita, which means non-dualism. And his answer to what is the one unchanging reality is simple, profound, and honestly a little bit shocking. You are it. Okay, so for Shankara, there is only one absolute reality, Brahman. Think of it as pure existence, pure consciousness, pure bliss. And your individual self, what he calls your Atman, isn't just a part of Brahman, it is Brahman. They are one and the same. So what about this whole world of separate people and cars and trees? Shankara says that's Maya, an appearance born from ignorance or avijja. And for Shankara, this ignorance has a specific name. He calls it superimposition. It's just our natural human tendency to project the qualities of one thing onto another, to mix up what's real with what only seems real. He has this brilliant analogy to explain it. Imagine you're walking home at dusk, and you see this coiled shape on the path. Your heart just pounds. You see a snake. But then you get a little closer, maybe you shine a light on it, and you realize, oh, it's just a piece of rope. The snake was never actually there. It was a superimposition, an illusion created by the dim light and your mind. Well, for Shankara, the entire universe of separate things is that snake. The only thing that's truly real is the rope, and that rope is Brahman. But this leads to a really fascinating paradox. If your true self is already one with the ultimate unchanging reality, then what is there to achieve? For Shankara, liberation isn't about becoming something new. It's about knowledge, jnana. It's that world-shattering aha moment of realizing what you have always been. The world doesn't dissolve, but your false perception of it does. Okay, so that's answer number one. Now, let's jump forward a few centuries. A philosopher named Ramanuja comes along, reads the same texts, and says, hold on a minute. He offers a different vision. He agrees there is one ultimate reality, but with a very important qualification. Ramanuja argued that, yes, Brahman is the one reality, but it's not some formless, featureless blob. It has real qualities, and it actually includes all of us individual souls and the material world within itself. So for him, yourself and the world are not illusions. They are real, distinct parts of a personal God's body. The key analogy here is your own body. You're one person, right? A single being. But you're also made up of all these distinct organs, a heart, lungs, a brain. Those parts are absolutely real. They're not illusions. But their whole existence and their purpose only make sense as part of the whole person. Ramanuja says that's us. We are real individual selves, but our very existence is totally dependent on and a part of God. So, naturally, the path to liberation looks totally different here. It's not just about getting knowledge. It's about bhakti, devotion. It's a path of love. The goal isn't to realize you are God, but to enter into a loving, eternal union with God while still getting to be your own unique self. Ramanuja's whole philosophy really leaves us with this powerful question to chew on. Is it actually possible to be a unique, distinct individual and, at the very same time, be an inseparable part of a single ultimate reality? And that brings us to our third and final answer. This one comes from Madhva, and he basically pushes back against any kind of non-dualism. For Madhva, the idea of difference isn't something to overcome, it's the fundamental truth of reality. In Madhva's system, called Dvaita or dualism, the lines are drawn in the sand and they are crystal clear. God, who he identifies as Vishnu, is the supreme, totally independent reality. All of us individual selves are eternally real and eternally distinct from God. And so is the material world. There is no merging. There is only relation. Madhva was so committed to this idea of difference that he laid out 5 fundamental, eternal differences that define everything. The difference between God and you, between God and a rock, between you and me, between you and that rock, and even between that rock and another rock. These distinctions aren't illusions to be overcome. They are the absolute bedrock of existence. A good way to think about it is like the relationship between a student and a teacher. A student can learn everything the teacher knows and achieve this perfect, beautiful understanding, but no matter how close they get, the student never becomes the teacher. They always remain 2 distinct individuals. For Madhva, that's our relationship with God. Madhva's dualism presents us with a pretty profound ethical question. If we're eternally separate from and dependent on a supreme God, does that mean our highest purpose isn't realizing our own divinity, but in fully embracing our dependence through humility, service, and adoration? So there we have it. 3 powerful, competing answers to that huge question we started with. You are it, you are part of it, you relate to it. But maybe the real genius of Vedanta isn't about finding a single correct answer, but in creating this rich, ongoing dialogue that's lasted for centuries. So let's just recap these 3 paths. For Shankara, the path is knowledge. The goal is realizing your complete identity with the ultimate reality. For Ramanuja, the path is devotion, and the goal is a loving union. And for Madhva, the path is service, where the goal is to get as close as possible to a God you'll always be distinct from. And believe me, this isn't just ancient history. This whole debate about the nature of the self, about unity versus individuality, about knowledge versus love, these are the very same questions that pop up in modern psychology, in consciousness studies, and in our own personal search for meaning. So let's bring it all back home, to you. If we take Shankara's idea that knowledge of the self sets you free, just take a second to ask yourself, what are the snakes in your life? What fears, anxieties, or perceived limitations are really just a piece of rope? Illusions that might just vanish if you looked at them with a clearer light. And this really brings us to the final critical question that Vedanta leaves on our doorstep. Is your ultimate goal to see through the illusion of your individual self, like Shankar says? Or is it, as Ramanuja and Madhva might argue, to cherish that self and to deepen its relationship with the greater reality that sustains it? The answer, as this amazing, timeless tradition shows us, might just define your entire path.